Hey everyone, we're gonna get started in just a few minutes. I want to give a little bit of extra time for people to sign in. All right, we're gonna get started. Thank you all very much for joining tonight. We really appreciate you attending and learning a little bit more about what solutions we have to offer, especially for direct-to-patient shipping. So today we are going to talk about direct-to-patient efficiency with IoT loggers. So shipments that are going directly to a patient or a caregiver from a given entity, whether that be a clinical trial organization or just a normal shipper. Talk about the challenges associated with that type of shipping and what kind of solutions we have to offer. Just a few things before we get started. If you're having trouble hearing me, please check your audio settings here. If you do have any questions at any time, please use the question box. You can type in any question that you might have at any time. I have a couple of my colleagues with me who are going to be monitoring that question box. I'll stop a few times throughout the presentation, allow for questions, and then of course at the very end, we'll allow for more questions. This webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to everyone after tonight. And lastly, we have 4 different handouts in the handout section here. There's a copy of the presentation itself, and then there's 3 different marketing materials that pertain directly to this webinar. So there's a material about our solution as a whole, one of the apps that we're going to really look into in detail today as a great solution for direct-to-patient shipping, and then another one about a new product that we're hoping to release in April. So tonight we're going to talk about direct-to-patient and last mile shipments. And first I will give the definitions of these 2 different things. They're very similar, but one is kind of like a subsect of another. Then we're going to talk about the challenges of direct-to-patient monitoring, and then go into some of the solutions that Intemp has to meet those challenges. So we'll talk about the Intemp Verify mobile application, which we think is a perfect solution for these types of shipments. We built it specifically for direct-to-patient and last mile monitoring. So it really is a great solution that many of you might be interested in. We'll talk about the Intent Connect Cloud solution, which is our cloud platform that we've had since the beginning. It's your control tower where you're able to do everything, analyze your data, get reports, and so forth. Go through several of the different products that are appropriate for shipments. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our real-time monitoring solutions, which is the new product that we hope to release sometime in April. So first, what is direct-to-patient last mile monitoring? Last mile is a portion of a larger shipment. So it is actually the last segment of a larger shipment where you have these major global pharmaceutical companies that ship all around the world. So they'll ship from one depot and that depot will ship to another one. Last mile is the point where a product is at a regional or local shipping center or distribution center and it's going to its final destination. So where it's going to be stored permanently or where it's going to be actually administered to the patient. So this might be a shipment from, again, a local regional warehouse that's going directly to a hospital, clinic, pharmacy, or even potentially a personal residence. So direct to patient is that last one. It's a subset of last mile. It is when you're shipping directly to a patient's residence or a caregiver's residence. So the end patient or the end recipient might be the patient and caregiver themselves or a family member, a nurse who might be residing at that person's home. It's direct-to-patient shipping in general is really an ideal solution for clinical trials. So you have these clinical trial companies who are trying to do these studies, even globally sometimes. So the challenge is how do you get everyone together? And a lot of times it just doesn't make sense to do that. It doesn't make sense to fly everybody around the world, get them centrally located to conduct these studies. So they do direct-to-patient shipping instead. And direct-to-patient is really becoming increasingly popular with advances in online patient care. So I'm sure you're all seeing these days, there's a lot of different options online now, and you can have your own medications shipped directly to your house. So you can see that there is this growing trend in this last mile direct-to-patient shipping. So it's becoming more and more important. So let's talk about some of the challenges of direct-to-patient shipping. There are numerous, and I'm sure a lot of you on the call today probably know even more than I do, but really what we want to do is focus on very specific challenges with direct-to-patient shipping so that we could then discuss what kind of solutions Intemp has to overcome those challenges. So we'll talk about data accessibility and management, user management, data distribution, data security, regulatory compliance, and asset tracking. So data accessibility and management. How do you provide access to critical data and effectively store it? So direct-to-patient shipments typically require on-demand data for real-time decision-making. So as soon as the shipment gets to that patient's residence or gets to that nurse or whoever it might be, they need to make a decision on the spot. Is this shipment good to take in or do I have to send it back? Does something happen from point A to point B that makes me concerned about the product inside where I don't want to actually administer it to myself or to my patient? So you have to have all the necessary data you need to make that on the spot decision. Monitor devices are usually located inside the package. They put it in to monitor the direct ambient temperature around the product so that you know the product was actually safe by the time it gets to its destination. This is something that can be very challenging with USB loggers because a lot of times you don't even want to open up that package until you know the product is safe. You don't want to have to open it up and then expose the product, potentially damaging it right then and there, exposing it in light, exposing it in ambient temperatures, and then determining that you have to send it back. A lot of times the clinical trial companies or the shippers don't even want you to open that package. But you have to with USB loggers. You have to pull it out, plug it into a computer, get the report and look at the data, and then even many times figure out who to send that data to if you're not the only decision maker. So there's a lot of challenges there. And with COVID, we've found that there's a growing need for contactless solutions. So obviously, as a driver and COVID or a delivery person during COVID, you want to have the ability to maintain distance. And with USB loggers, you just don't really have that option. And it's also about touch points, how many times that logger actually gets touched throughout a supply chain or in that last mile. You want to make sure that you're not touching it and spreading germs that way. And then there's the need for data to be stored in a central location. This is critical for many direct-to-patient shippers and clinical trial companies, or anybody focusing on last mile shipments in general. Again, it's not always just the patient who's making the decisions. A lot of other people need that data too. They'll need it for audit purposes, regulatory compliance, QA purposes, or they might need to help whoever's making the decision at the destination to say whether or not that product is bad. So there might be an excursion, but that excursion might mean nothing and the product is fine. You might need that extra assistance, but how do you get that assistance if that data isn't stored in a central location and everybody has access to it? So data access is a major challenge with direct-to-patient and last mile shipments. User management. And this is really about IoT loggers now. So we have an IoT solution, Bluetooth loggers. You communicate with our loggers via mobile app or using one of our gateways. I'll go into all the details about that later on. But one of the challenges with that is with that type of system, you always need to have credentials to access the data. But if you're doing direct-to-patient shipments, you don't usually know who that person is until the shipment's actually created. So up until that last minute before the shipment goes out the door. And then on top of that, you could have thousands of shipments a month. It's not realistic to have to maintain so many different users in a given cloud account just to make sure that they have access to that data. So we're going to talk about specifically one of our solutions, one of our mobile applications that really overcomes that challenge and makes sure that everybody has the data accessibility they need without having to have those user credentials or without having to do that user management. Then there's the issue of the end recipient not being, or potentially not being technologically capable or adept. Again, we're potentially shipping directly to customers. They might have conditions where it makes it difficult to be able to get this data, to use an app, to take a USB logger, plug it in, figure out how to get the data off the logger and figure out where to send it. Or they just might not be technologically adept. These could be older users who haven't used mobile apps or USB loggers or not very familiar with computers in general. So how do you overcome that challenge? Data distribution. How do you get the right data to the right people? So again, this is about storing data in a central location. There is more than just the end recipient who is actually receiving that package. Lots of people need to see that data. How do you make sure that everybody is getting the data they need to do whatever they need to do, whether it's accepting or rejecting that shipment, or doing quality analysis, or making sure that the company itself is maintaining regulatory compliance. And then if a temperature excursion occurs, analysis is typically required by somebody. So who's doing that analysis? Again, it probably isn't going to be the patient or the nurse. It could be the nurse. They're probably more used to seeing these types of solutions and using these types of solutions. But if it's a direct patient, probably you've never seen this kind of data before, these types of reports. How do they make that type of analysis? So getting that data to somebody who knows how to look at that data and say yes or no, this shipment is good, this shipment is bad, is really critical. And then, as I mentioned before, a lot of times you got to figure out how to get data to those people. And the end recipient, the patient or the nurse, they don't know who to send the data to. Unless somebody gives them some guidelines, here's a piece of paper, please email it to them, and even then they're getting onto their email on a computer, having to send this report from a USB logger. There's a lot of logistics associated with that kind of solution. Data security. How do you restrict data from people who should not see it? So one of the things with USB loggers, and this is actually why they're becoming less popular these days, is the security. Anybody in the world can pick one of those loggers up, plug it into the computer, and get the data. You don't necessarily want them seeing that data. It could potentially have personal data on it, like email and name. You may just not want them to see the data itself. They might be excursions on that you don't want them privy to. So you want to make sure that only the people you want to see data can see it. So how do you overcome that challenge? Regulatory compliance. How do you provide sufficient data for regulatory compliance? You need to collect and assess the data for proof and of the safety and efficacy of that product. You need the data for regulatory audits and even internal quality requirements. So again, how are you making sure you're getting that data, getting a central location so that you can create the necessary reports to provide to regulatory bodies? And then finally, asset tracking. How do you monitor high value, highly sensitive shipments? So this is where we're going to talk about the new product we're hoping to release in April. We're going to talk about actually physically monitoring a product throughout the entire shipment, seeing its location, knowing exactly where it is. But highly sensitive, high value products typically require that extra layer of monitoring, knowing where it is exactly at all times. So a great example would be organ transplants and shipping those. You need to know that every step of the way. You need to know where it is. And the people who are receiving it want to know where it is. They want to know exactly when it's going to arrive so that they can get ready for it. And then, of course, you want to make sure it's actually secure while in transit. So if anything is going wrong, you have that chance to be reactive during the shipment instead of it getting all the way to the destination, finding out it went bad. So you want to have that ability to say, hey, what's going on? I see there's this excursion happening. You call the driver, you call airport, you call your supply chain partners and say, something's happening, go look at it, fix it before it goes bad. So just discussed all these different challenges, and now I want to get into what kind of solutions does Intemp have to really address all those challenges. And we have a few different things, but one that's going to meet the majority of those challenges, minus the real-time location tracking, is a mobile app called Intemp Verify. We created this app specifically for last mile shipping. So again, last mile, including direct to patient. Knowing that it's difficult to have an IoT system and managing thousands of users, we wanted to find a way to give users the same data accessibility of a USB logger, but without any of the negatives of the USB logger. So how do you take the data accessibility USB logger, but then create a system that provides an extra layer of intelligence and an extra layer of automation so that everything is super simple for both the entity shipping the product and the people that are receiving the product, the patient and the nurse. So we created Intemp Verify to get rid of all those requirements. You do not need to be associated with a cloud account to perform a download. Anybody who has Intemp Verify that is in range of a logger, so when I say in range, again, we're talking about Bluetooth. You have to be in a 100-foot range with a personal device. But anybody in range of a logger that has been enabled to be used with Intemp Verify can download that data. And it's just one button. It's just a download button. That's it. And in the app, they could see the current temperature and whether or not there was any alarms. So right then and there, they could see if there was an issue and make a determination, a yes or no, I should accept, reject the shipment, or if I should reach out to somebody to get additional help in analyzing a potential temperature excursion. There is security built into this app. Users cannot control the loggers in any way. So it's not like a USB logger where you can just pick it up, plug it in, anybody can get the data. No, nobody can control the loggers. They can't start them. They can't restart them. They can't stop them. They can't control them. And all they can see is the current temp and whether or not there was any alarms. That's all the data they see. unless you, as the owner of that logger, as the owner of the cloud account, decide that you want to provide them with additional data. And there's a way to automate that as well, so that when they hit that download button, they immediately get an email with a report directly in it. So you choose what kind of data that you want them to see. Either they see the basics and just the app, or they get an email notification with a report in it so that they can make a more informed decision themselves. So here are several highlights of the Intent Verify app. Again, if you want to get a copy of this presentation, go to the handout section. You can download the copy and see all this. And there's pamphlets on Intent Verify as well. And of course, all this will be on our website. But the highlights is one-time sign-in. So again, we designed this app knowing that the recipient might be a patient or a nurse. They might not be technologically adept, or they might not have the capabilities to really use mobile devices easily. So we made it super simple. You sign up once, email, first name, last name. That's all the information that's required. And then all it is a download button. And you don't have to sign in over and over again. There is no timeout. There's no app timeout, so you don't get automatically signed out. You just tap on the app and you're automatically signed back in. And the reason why we did that is, again, the amount of data a user can see is extremely limited. We're not worried about data security here. And they can't control the loggers. All they can do is press that download button, which will take in the data and send it up straight to the cloud. So one download button, that's it. You can see the data in real time when you're in range of the logger. Again, Bluetooth, so you have to be in range to see that real-time data. It's highly secure, 21 CFR Part 11 compliant. And the data is automatically sent to where it needs to be. So that is where we're taking this data accessibility and then adding an extra layer of intelligence and automation to the solution. The way it works is whoever configured and started that logger, they configure it under a specific cloud account. They sign in with their credentials. They configure the logger under that cloud account with their credentials. And then when a person with Intent Verify goes to download, it knows to send the data directly to the cloud account that the logger was configured under. So they don't have to worry about figuring out who to send that data to. It's automatically going to the cloud account. So there's no user management, and it's automatically delivered to where it needs to go. And then with Intent Connect, you get even an additional layer of automation with our notifications feature. Two different notifications that are relevant to this. There is a temperature excursion notification. So if there is an excursion when they tap the download button, a notification is going to go out by email or text message. You decide, it could be both. And it's going to alert all the relevant users. You decide who those users are, who gets that alert, and it's going to tell them an alarm occurred. And then there is another notification for just downloads in general. So if a download is done, period, by tapping that button, notification is going to go out, and that notification, you can choose to include the report in, and it could be PDF, Excel, but when the email goes out, the reports could be right in there. And again, you decide who's going to get that notification, who's going to get that report. And here is where you can say, all right, I also want the downloading user, the person using Intent Verify, to receive this report. The way that works is, since you create an account with Intent Verify with your email, the system already knows the user's email. So it takes in that email, looks at the notification, and all the notification it says is send to downloading user. You don't need to know their email whatsoever. It says send to downloading user, and then the notification automatically goes to that person using Intent Verify. So I talked a lot about how all this really works already, but just a couple other notes here is, again, when we're kind of going back to data security, one of the other nice features is you decide which loggers can and cannot be used with Intent Verify, and you do that by creating what we call a logger profile. You create these logger profiles in Intent Connect, and then you apply the logger profile to whatever loggers you want. So you can have some that work with Intent Verify, some that don't, and the ones that don't won't even show up in the Intent Verify app. You can't even see it. So there's no way to access that data. The only way you can access it is if you actually have user credentials for that cloud account, and you're signing into an app or using a gateway to access the data with those cloud account credentials. Everything else I kind of really already explained here with alerts and notifications, one-tap downloads, and being able to see the current temperature, whether or not an alarm has occurred. So again, we talked about all these challenges associated with direct-to-patient shipments, and this, we believe, is really the best solution for it by giving you that data accessibility of USB logger, but none of the issues with USB, and then adding on an extra layer of intelligence and automation. So before I continue, I want to open it up to any questions.
Hey, Colin, when you started, did you let them know they could also type in their questions in the chat box?
I did.
Oh, okay, I missed it. There are no questions so far.
Okay, so yeah, just I mean, good point, Caroline. If anybody did miss that and you do have a question, there is that questions box in your control panel for the go-to meeting. You could just type in your questions there, and then we'll be happy to answer them. All right, so let's move on to the Intent Connect solution. So this is the cloud account. This is your control tower. This is where everything gets centralized and stored in terms of all the temperature data and all the data from the loggers. There are tons of benefits to Intent Connect. One of them being automation. Now, I just want to make a note here that you can only achieve this level of automation if you also choose to purchase the CX5000 gateway. That gateway device is what allows you to do automatic logger configurations and startups, automatic downloads, and then it also is what allows real-time excursion alerts and reporting. Now, of course, if you're using Intent Verify app, you're still going to get excursion alerts, but the gateway automates all this by seeing a logger that comes into range of it, looking to see if it has that alarm, and then if it sees an alarm, it says, okay, got to download you, and then send the data to wherever it needs to go. And then, of course, the other notification I talked about is if a download's done, you can get that report directly in the email. But again, the automation, especially the automatic configuration and downloading, can only be done with the CX5000 gateway. And the CX5000 gateway is the only thing that has an associated data plan. Intent Connect, Intent Verify, and our other mobile app, the Intent mobile app, are all free. So if you don't want to use a gateway, you don't have to. You can use the different apps in conjunction with Intent Connect, and that's a completely free solution other than the cost of the logger itself. The gateway has an associated data plan. It's only $50 per year per gateway though, so it's very inexpensive. So if you have two gateways, it's going to be $50 per gateway, $100 per year. And then we also had tier pricing if you're buying in bulk. So it is still very inexpensive, even though there is an associated data plan with the gateway. Continuing with the features of Intent Connect, here you're able to do all types of data analysis. There's advanced reporting features where you can decide how data is displayed, how it's organized and grouped so that you can make more informed decisions. In the graphic here, you can actually see something called segmentation, which is very useful for shipments. What segmentation does is it removes data from a report. And I want to make sure I'm being clear here when I say remove, I do not mean delete. This is a 21 CFR compliant, Annex 11 compliant system, meaning data cannot be deleted or altered in any way. So you could trust the data's in here. Auditors can trust the data that's in there, know that it was not deleted or manipulated. All you're doing with segmentation is removing it from the report. And then in that report, it says data was segmented so that an auditor can see that, they can see who segmented it, and then you can explain why. And why this is so important for shipments is a lot of times shipments don't go according to plan. You might start a logger and then it records data for 2 hours and then finally the shipment goes out. But that 2 hours of data beforehand is useless. You don't want that in your report. You're not concerned about it because it wasn't with the product. So you want to remove that data and have a more concise report. We also have a shipment creation feature. So if you want to do your shipments through Intent Connect, you can. You can create origin destination locations to say where it's being shipped from and to. And then you can also apply data tags. So you can apply data tags even without the shipment feature, but you can apply data tags to a shipment as well. And this is actually a very powerful tool. And what it does is it allows you to more easily identify loggers. It allows you to do business analysis and allows you to make sure the right data goes to the right people. So by that, I mean, instead of picking up a report that says serial number 1234 and serial number 456, whatever it might be, you're going to get a report that now says, okay, serial number 1234 that was associated with a shipment going from this origin to this destination, but then was also used with this courier and was in this type of packaging, use this shipping method. You can create a data tag for anything you want, and you can create as many data tags as you want to add additional information to your reports. So now I can see, for example, this logger got shipped with FedEx or UPS or DHL, whatever you're using. It got shipped in this type of package, and it was done with 2-day shipping, ground shipping, air shipment, whatever it might be. So I can more easily identify that logger, even if I include things like shipment ID. So I can match up a shipment ID and ITC to the actual physical pieces of paper that get associated with a shipment in your warehouse. The other nice thing about that is, let's say I am analyzing packages, I can use the data tag for packages and then start making comparisons. So I might find that a package I'm currently using is showing a lot of temperature excursions. So that tells me in order to protect my product and reduce waste, I have to purchase better packaging that will protect it more. Or I might find the other way where the packaging is working really well, and I might be able to consider going to a cheaper form of packaging and save some money. So it really helps you to make those types of business decisions as well. And then it allows you to make sure data goes to the right people. So with notifications, you can use these data tags. They're known as trip fields in our system. That's just an industry standard term. So when you go into our system, you're looking for something called trip fields. But you can apply that to a notification so that if a logger that belongs to shipment 1234 should be, or the data for that logger should be sent to a very specific individual, I can have a data tag that says for all loggers associated with shipment 1234, send it to this person. So that data tag also ensures that the correct data goes to the correct people. And lastly, again, with the CX5000 gateway, you could do remote device management. So if I need to do a off-schedule download, or if I need to see data immediately for loggers that are in range of the gateway, so the loggers also have to be in range of the gateway, again, Bluetooth, 100-foot range, I can remotely download or configure a logger. I don't have to be on site. If I don't have a gateway, then I will have to use a mobile application, be on site, be in range of those loggers to perform all the operations and activities that I need to complete. Intent Connect is a highly customizable solution. We wanted to make sure that we create a solution that works for all of our customers. Each entity, each organization is unique. They have their own unique needs. They do things differently. So everything is really customizable within our system. You can customize the logger behavior. So how does logger start up? How often does it record? What are the alarm limits, the min and max? You can customize your gateway behavior, how often it does scheduled downloads, or how often it does off-scheduled downloads for events such as temperature excursions. Or there's another field where if the gateway sees a logger for the very first time, you want to instruct it to do a download because it's coming to a destination, it needs to download immediately. So you can customize the gateway behavior as well. There's advanced reporting features. So again, you decide how you want to see that data. There's different report types that shows the data in different ways. And again, you can use those data tags to also organize your data so that you could do that type of business analysis I was talking about. And customizable user privileges. Every single activity in Intemp Connect and the Intemp mobile app is privilege based. So notice I didn't say Intemp Verify. That's because there's only one thing you can do in Intemp Verify, and that's press that download button. So you don't need privileges for that. If you set up a logger to be used with Intemp Verify, again, you choose which loggers you want to be used with it, then you're basically giving permission for anybody with Intemp Verify to download that logger. But everything else with Intemp Connect and the Intemp app, completely privilege based. You decide what a user can and cannot do. It is a highly secure system. It is 21 CFR Part 11 and the EU equivalent Annex 11 compliant. It's hosted on Amazon Web Services, so you're getting all the security associated with Amazon Web Services as well. The data is fully encrypted both in transit and at rest. So you can't even access the data through the logger physically. It's not like you can plug it in or anything or open it up and get that data. It's encrypted. You won't be able to get it. You have customizable password settings. Again, not every organization is the same. They have different requirements, especially around passwords. So you can set it up so that you decide how often a user has to change their password. And when they do change their password, how many past passwords do they have to wait before they can start reusing a past password? And then how many times do they enter an incorrect password before the system locks them out completely and they have to reset it? You choose what works for you as an organization. For the data, we host the data for 15 years, and after that, per regulatory compliance, we get rid of all that data. So we purge it. That's on an account basis, obviously. So we'll take a look at how long an account has existed for, and if it hits that 15-year mark, we purge the data. If there's concerns about it, you can always talk to us, obviously. We have fully redundant systems with backup sites. And then again, Intemp Connect is a centralized solution, so all the data goes to one place, especially if you're a global organization and people at the different global locations all need to access the same data. They want to be able to do it from a central place. Before I continue, I want to open up for questions again.
Yep, there is a question
Okay.
asking, are you going to be talking about the CX402?
Not really. I'll briefly mention one of the CX402s, a specific model of it that can be used for shipping applications. Other than that, the CX402 typically, we don't typically see being used in shipping applications. We have customers who actually build it into their own types of packaging. So they're a packaging customer and they'll build it into their packaging. We do see some customers actually use it for just regular shipping applications, but it's not very typical. But you will see one of the models of CX402 that we think is appropriate for shipping applications in just a second.
Okay, that was the only one.
All right, then let's dive right into that subject. So now I'm going to go over the different devices that we have to offer that we think are appropriate for direct to patient and just shipping in general. It's not specifically direct to patient or last mile shipments. It's just these loggers are appropriate for all types of shipments. Before I do that, just want to provide you with a overall system overview here just to make sure everybody understands how all this works. You purchase one of our data loggers, you put it in a package, which will get shipped by train, boat, whatever it might be, or you might be doing a storage application, but we're really talking about shipping today. And then that data is accessed either through the gateway or through a personal device using one of the mobile apps, Intemp Verify or the regular Intemp app. And I will explain the difference between the two in a sec. Those devices need to connect to our loggers via Bluetooth, so the loggers have to be in range of the devices within 100 feet. And then the gateway will send the data up to the cloud via a Ethernet or Wi-Fi connection. And then the personal device, obviously, if you're near Wi-Fi, it'll send it up via Wi-Fi, or it can send it up via cellular data as well. Then it all gets centrally stored in Temp Connect for anybody who has credentials to access. So here's a list of loggers we believe are appropriate for shipments. All of these that I'm about to discuss are Bluetooth. Two different options for our CX 500, 600, and 700 series of loggers. You have a single use and a multi-use version. Single use is one and done. You use it once, you can't use it again. It can last up to 90 days once you start it. Multi-use, you can use as many times as you want for 1 year. So you can use it over and over and over and potentially save money that way if you have good return logistics. The CX400 series of loggers is multi-use only. So the main difference between the 400s and the rest of ours is that they have that LCD screen showing temperature in real time, the min and the max, any alarms, battery life, and so forth. So first up, you have the CX500. This has an operating range of -30 to 70 Celsius, so it is ideal for frozen, refrigerated, and ambient shipments. This is really your most popular type of shipment logger. It's very affordable. Again, works with all of our solutions, and it meets the majority of shipping needs. Next is the CX405 and CX600, which is for dry ice shipments. So they both have an operating range of -95 to 50 C. So that's the dry ice range at the lower end there. And the CX405 was specifically designed for the COVID vaccine. So one of the requirements that the FDA, CDC, and EU as well all came up with was they wanted a dry ice logger with a display on it. So we put on a dry ice probe onto a regular 400 logger, and that was a good solution for the COVID vaccine, still is a good solution for it. Then you have the CX700. This is for cryo shipments. You don't see a ton of these, especially with last mile shipments. You really don't see a lot of those. But if you do have cryogenic applications, there is a CX700, which goes all the way down to -200 Celsius and up to 50 C. The CX450 is the only logger in our product line that measures both temperature and humidity. So if you have humidity applications, the CX450 is your solution. It has an operating range of -30 to 70 Celsius. And for humidity, it goes for 0 to 95% humidity, non-condensing. And then hopefully this is what you were looking for that person who asked about the CX402. Here's the 402 that we specifically recommend for shipping practices. Now, again, you can use any of our loggers for whatever you want to, but this is one we would push the most because it has that probe, and we understand that, especially for blood and plasma, or anytime you just need to have a probe in general stuck into a product or some liquid, this is the best application or the best device to do that with. It's also ideal for customers who actually manufacture containers or packaging. So again, we have customers who build our devices directly into their packaging as part of the solution, and they just stick the probe into the packaging itself. I've talked a lot about the gateway already. I don't really need to go over this again, but it's your automation device, works via Wi-Fi or Ethernet. You decide which one works best for you, and it automates all the configuration and downloading and so forth. And the 3 software solutions. Temp Connect being that cloud control tower solution. The Intemp Verify mobile app, which we talked about extensively, which is really the best solution for direct-to-patient last mile shipping. And then the Intemp mobile app. The difference between the two apps is the Intemp mobile app gives users full control of the loggers. So they can start a logger with it, they can stop a logger, they can get reports directly off the app and send reports. And they can also set up their gateways with this. So this is your full control solution. versus Intent Verify, which is just that one download button, that's it. All right, so stop again in case there's any questions about our products.
No, you got a really shy crowd tonight.
All right. Okay, and then I'll go into the last part then, and then that'll be the end of the presentation. We'll open it back up for questions then. So the last thing I want to go over is the new product that I was talking about that we're hoping to release in April. And this is our first real-time cellular data logger. So it's the CX1000 series. It transmits both temperature and location in real time. You decide how often it uploads data to the cloud, but it sends data directly to our cloud. And then you can see on the right here, in Intent Connect, there's the dashboard for it. So you can see exactly where that shipment has been, where it currently is. And then we color code everything to say origin, destination, current location, past location. So you know exactly the status of the shipment, where it is at that time. And then you get real-time data. So this dashboard updates automatically. It will see updated temperatures as temperatures come in. And it'll alert you of any different excursions that might occur throughout the shipment so that you can react in real time. So again, with the map, you can see here, I can click on any of the different upload points. I can see at the second upload point there's actually 2 times it uploaded in the same exact location. I can click on both of them to get more details about that actual upload, including temperature and location. These loggers actually monitor more than just temperature and location. They also monitor light and shock events. So if your product is sensitive to light and shock, it will alert you if there is a light or shock event. And of course, light is also good for just regular shipment security. If you're not expecting a package to be opened or a door to be opened during the shipment and you see that light event occur, you can contact whoever you need to contact and say, hey, what's going on? Why was there a light event? Why was this opened? And that gives you an extra layer of security, especially for asset tracking. Again, like all of our other loggers, this is very customizable, so you can change the settings on it. You decide what the settings are, how often it records, how often it uploads data. And it does have a 30-day runtime at 60-minute intervals. You can choose how often data gets sent up. So of course, if you do more frequently, your battery life is going to go down. However, let's say you choose data to be uploaded every 4 hours. Even if you're doing that, you don't have to worry about the shipment, because if there is a temperature excursion, a light event, a shock event, or a low battery event, you're going to get a off-schedule upload, and you're going to get alerted of that event immediately. So you don't have to wait the 4 hours. If any of those things occur, you're going to get notified immediately. The loggers are rechargeable. It's just a simple USB-C cord, so your standard cord these days. It is flight compliant, so it's FAA IATA compliant. The way they did that was it has also a pressure and an accelerometer in it, so it can sense when a plane is pressurized and is taking off. It will automatically shut down the cellular communication, so it is flight compliant. And it has certifications for several specific airlines as well. And the really nice thing about this solution is it's all-in-one pricing. So it comes with a global SIM card, cellular data plan anywhere in the world, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to activate it. You don't have to manage it. It's all one cost. You don't have to pay extra for it. So when you buy the logger, you're getting the SIM card and data plan all in that price. So that is it for the real-time solution. Again, we're hoping to release that around sometime in April. Definitely keep an eye out for announcements around that. We'll send emails to all of our customers, or you can always contact us. Here's our contact right here if you want to inquire about that solution or any of our other products. I also want to highlight our support team. We have a great technical support team. If you do have any issues with your loggers or with the system in general, they will respond to any requests within 24 hours. So you get a reply back very quickly, and great team that'll help you out with anything you need. We also offer weekly trainings, and these are free live trainings. We have a person go over the system live, and there's two different types. We alternate each type week to week. There's a basic user training, which goes over how to start up your loggers, how to download them, how to use the NTemp app, and so forth. And then an advanced user training, which goes over how do you set up the NTemp Connect Cloud account, the logger profiles, gateway behavior, advanced reporting, and so forth. So again, those are every week. You can go onto our website to sign up for them, and it's free. So with that, I want to open it back up to any final questions.
You know, I think you were so good, they had no questions.
I get that a lot, actually.
Yeah, I know, right? You're getting better at this.
Okay. If there's no further questions,
Oh,
obviously.
wait,
Oh, here
there
we
is
go.
a question. Hold on.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, question.
Yeah, so for Garth, would you like to type in your question, or we can, you want to unmute them?
Yeah, if we can unmute if you like.
Oh,
Okay.
wait, hang on. Okay,
Oh,
Garth
if
is
the devices
typing.
are Bluetooth. Perf.
Sorry, what was that?
No,
Yeah.
he hasn't finished the question yet.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so if the devices are Bluetooth, how do they scale in a warehouse?
so in a warehouse application, what we really recommend is purchasing one of the gateways, because the gateway can read out an unlimited number of loggers, really. So you can have hundreds within range of the gateway, and the gateway will automate, again, all those activities. So you can have it configure the loggers with the selected profile that you create in NTemp Connect. And the nice thing is you create that profile once, that's it. It gets applied to the loggers over and over. It automates the downloads and so forth. So if you have a gateway, that is the way you can really scale and scale very effectively, because it's not like a one-to-one correlation. Again, you can have hundreds around the gateway, and the gateway will be able to handle them.
So the follow-on question to that is, do you mean they're all competing to communicate and advertise their live data?
They're not competing. So what the gateway actually does is it takes all the loggers in range and puts it into a queue. And it takes, I think it's something about 20, 25 at a time, and processes each one at a time within that batch, and then it does things in batches. So if you have several hundred loggers all needing attention at once, it will slow down the gateway a bit. I think that's probably what you're really asking. But we've done studies on gateway response times, and even with 100 loggers, it's pretty fast. We really don't see significant delays at those quantities. But obviously, the more you have around it, the more delay you could potentially have.
So the next question is, as a follow-on too, is that, so if I have a phone app, can I see all the loggers in the warehouse?
As long as they're in within that 100-foot range, you can. So the NTemp app, again, has more functionality. So it allows you to do things like bulk configure, bulk download. So you don't have to configure and download one logger at a time. You can select as many loggers as you want, apply a logger profile to them, and they'll get configured all at once. The app obviously does take a little bit longer than a gateway would, but you do have the ability to see all the loggers at once and then do bulk configurations or bulk downloads with it.
Okay, thank you. That looks
Right.
to be the last question.
Perfect.
Oh, wait, no, actually, no,
Oh
I'm
wait.
wrong. Well, hold on.
Okay.
What
No,
is
that's
One more.
the
One more.
What is the estimated distance between the logger and the gateway?
It's up to 100 feet. Now, what we do typically recommend is you stay under 100 feet because it gets a little spotty there, but it can work up to 100 feet.
Which is about 30 meters. You're
Yes.
talking to a metric crowd here tonight.
That's right, 30.5 meters.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I did everything in Celsius, though.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I think
We can go home.
might be it for tonight.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
Tom.
thank you all very much for attending. If you do have any questions to think of later, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We really appreciate you all joining us for these, and we plan to have several more this year, especially as we start to release new products. So again, keep an eye on your emails, look for new product releases and new webinars in the future. We hope to see you again. Thank you, and have a wonderful night, morning, or afternoon, wherever you may be. Goodbye.
Goodbye.